Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma la sahlan illa ma ja'altahu sahlan wa anta taj'al al-hazana idha shi'ta sahlan. Rabbi zidni ilma. Allahumma anfa'ni bima 'allamtani wa 'allimni ma yanfa'uni. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas sami'ul alim. We start in the name of Allah and we ask that He makes learning the Quran easy for us. We ask that He increases in our knowledge. We ask that He makes the knowledge we learn beneficial knowledge and knowledge that is useful for us. And we ask that He accepts the small efforts that we are making in His path. Ameen. Now, yesterday, we finished going through the letters of the alphabet. The first day we went through the first 7 letters. We talked more about just the etiquettes of learning the Quran and the mindset we need to have while taking part in this course. And then yesterday we went through the remaining letters. So we started from Dal and we went all the way to Ya. We mentioned the makharij of each one, and we also went through which letters are the heavy letters. I mentioned there are 7 heavy letters. So just a quick test. Who remembers the 7 heavy letters? Who would like to say them if you remember them? If you want to have a go, maybe just raise your hand in the call, or maybe you can even write it in the chat if you want to. Okay, brother. Yes, so the one who just raised their hand. I don't know your name because it says Holmes iPhone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, my brother? You okay?
Alhamdulillah, good.
So the 7 heavy letters, if I'm right, was Jim, Sod, Dod, Do, Zo, Ghain, and Kaf.
Close, you got 6 out of 7.
Kha, the first one.
Kha is the first one. Fantastic. Jazakallah khair. So yeah, Jazakallah khair, brother. So the 7 heavy letters, as our brother just mentioned, are Kha, Sad, Dad, Ta, Dha, Ghain, and Qaf. So Kha, Sad, Dad, Ta, Dha, Ghain, and Qaf. Now, these letters have that heavy quality, that round quality. Okay. We also mentioned that Ra is not a heavy letter, but we read it as a heavy letter. So we mentioned that it's not part of this group of heavy letters, but we did read it as a heavy letter. Now, today's lesson, inshallah, what we'll go through is we'll start going through the vowels, inshallah. The first half of the lesson, maybe the first 20 minutes, I will explain the first of these vowels. And then the second half of the lesson, I'm going to, inshallah, go through a few words with the vowels and explain the method that we'll be using when practicing, inshallah. So, as you can see, there are 3 types of vowels. We have here Fatha, Kasra, and Dhamma. Each of these vowels, they have a particular shape, okay? You'll see a letter with a vowel. It will have this shape on top, below, on top or below of the letter, okay? So today, inshallah, we're going to go through the Fatha, okay? So the Fatha is this little line, okay? It's a line that looks like this, and you're going to see it on top of the letter, okay? So the letter will be here, okay? And then you're going to see the Fatha on top of the letter, okay? Now, what the Fatha will do is it's going to give the letter a particular sound, okay? The Fatha is going to give the letter a particular sound, and that's basically what it is. So the sound it's going to give is going to be an A sound, okay? So I'm just going to write it down. The Fatha is going to give an A sound, okay? So what that means is when we read a letter with the Fatha, we're going to pronounce the makhraj of the letter, okay? So we're going to pronounce the letter, and then after we've pronounced it, we're going to put the A sound after it, okay? So the theory sounds quite complex, but in practicality, it's a lot more simple than it sounds. So inshallah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these letters and hopefully through just the practice and through going through the examples, inshallah, it will make a lot more sense. Okay, so the main thing to remember is the fatha is this little line on top of the letter. Okay, so let's go down. So as we can see, we've got the letters in front of us. I'll just show the whole page. So you have the entire page. You've got all the letters, and on this page we have the letters with the fatha. Okay, so each of these letters has a fatha on top of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to read these letters and we're going to make the sound of the fatha. Okay, so starting with this one here. Now I mentioned yesterday that Hamza is a letter. It wasn't on, it wasn't on the list. Alif was on the list, but Hamza was not on the list. Now, what that means is basically whenever we see a Hamza, okay, on top of the letter, or sometimes underneath the letter, it'll usually be on top of an alif or underneath an alif. Okay, so if we see the Hamza, then the Hamza is going to take precedence and we are going to read the Hamza. Okay, so we mentioned yesterday that Hamza comes from the bottom of the throat. So the sound that this letter is going to make is just simply going to be a. Okay, so everyone obviously just make sure that you're practicing as we go through these letters. Make sure that you just read these as we go along, inshallah. So this letter is going to be a. Okay, we're reading the sound of the Hamza and we're pronouncing the Fatha. Okay, the next letter is the letter Ba, and with the Fatha on top, we're gonna read the makhraj of the Ba, which is the moist part of the lips, and then we are gonna put the A sound after it. So this is gonna be Ba, Ba. Okay, so the first one was just simply A. This is gonna be Ba. Okay, quite straightforward so far. Now note, it's not Ba, we're not stretching it, we're just saying Ba. Okay, when we were practicing the letter Ba, we were kind of stretching it a little bit. But in this time with the Fatha, it's just it's a short sound. It's just gonna be Ba. Moving on, the next letter is the letter Ta. So we're gonna pronounce the makhraj with the sound of the Fatha after it, and this is gonna be Ta. Ta. Okay, the makhraj of the Ta, remember, the tip of the tongue between the gums and the top two teeth. It needs to be between the gums and the teeth. So you're gonna say Ta, Ta, Ta. The next letter here is Tha, and the makhraj of Tha is the tip of the tongue touching the tip of the top two teeth. Okay, so this is going to be Tha, Tha, Tha. Make sure that your tongue is only touching the top teeth and not the bottom teeth. Okay, so we'll just quickly go through these. This is A, Ba, Ta, Tha. Okay, so those are the first four letters with the fatha. We'll do the next four, and then inshallah I'll just give a chance to ask some questions. So we'll go through the next four, inshallah. So the next letter is the letter Jim. Okay, the letter Jim, we mentioned it sounds like the letter J. So when we see the Jim with the fatha, we're gonna make that sound of the J, and we're gonna put the fatha sound, which is the A sound, and we're gonna say Ja, Ja, Ja. Notice that this letter is Jim, but with the fatha become Ja, Ja. Okay, we're pronouncing the makhraj with the sound of the fatha. That's all we're doing. The next letter is the letter Ha. Okay, very strong sound from the middle of the throat, Ha, and with the fatha, it's just going to be Ha, Ha. Notice how that stretch is gone now. Yeah, the fatha is a very short sound. Ha, Ha. You still have to get it from the middle of the throat. You still have to get that, that clear, strong sound. But now you're just going to say Ha. The next letter is the letter Kha. Now we mentioned that Kha is a heavy letter. So how does this sound with the fatha? Well, we're going to say Kha, Kha, Kha. Okay, we're still saying the sound of the fatha, which is the sound, but we're putting that heavy quality, meaning we're raising the back end of our tongue. We're slowly releasing the sound, we're rounding our mouth, we're doing those things with the heavy letters. And what that is going to do is it's going to give the fatha a slightly different sound. It's going to sound like this. It's going to sound kha, kha, kha. Okay. The next letter is dal. The letter dal with the fatha is going to be da, da, da. Notice that the dal and the ta have the same makhraj, tip of the tongue touching between the gums and the teeth. So this dal with the fatha will become da, da. So I'll quickly just go through these 8 again. We have the hamza is going to be a, ba, ta, tha, ja, ha, kha. Remember, keep that heavy quality for the letter kha, kha, da. Okay, so that's the premise of the fatha. Does anyone have any questions? A 1 if you feel okay and you understand what the fatha does to a letter. A 5 if you'd like me to repeat anything, or if you have a question in the chat. Brother, do you have a question?
No, my bro. Just sending number 1 as.
Okay, no worries. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so iPad 2, you've got a 5. Do you have a question?
Yeah. Just quickly, my Zoom got disconnected, so I've just connected it again. So I missed some of these. So just can you please repeat it quickly so I sort of know?
Of course, no worries.
Thank you.
First letter, a, ba, ta, tha, ja, ha. Keep that ha, that clear, strong sound from the middle of the throat. Ha. The letter kha, we will keep the heaviness. Kha, da. Okay.
Da. Okay. Thank you.
So carrying on. Alhamdulillah, everyone understands what the fatha is. So we'll go through the rest of these, inshallah. So the letter dal, remember, is going to be from the tip of the tongue touching the tip of the top 2 teeth. You're not going to say zal. Zal is incorrect. You're going to say dal. Only touch the top teeth. So this dal will become the. Very, very light sound. It's rolling off the teeth. The tongue is just rolling off the teeth. Very, very soft sound. The. Now the ra with the fatha, we mentioned that ra is not a heavy letter, but sometimes it's heavy. And when it's heavy, we indicate it with a little circle underneath. So we're going to read with the fatha, it will be ra, ra, ra. Get that vibration of the tongue if you can. And don't say ra. Ra is incorrect because you're not making it heavy. You have to say ra. Moving on, the letter za is going to be za, za, za. The letter sin is going to be sa, sa, sa. The letter sheen is going to be sha, sha, sha. Okay. Now we get to the tricky letters. So the letter sad is a heavy letter, so we mark it with a little circle underneath. And remember to do those 4 things. Raise the back end of the tongue. Apply pressure on the makhraj. In the case of sad, it's the bottom teeth. Slowly release the sound and round your mouth. So this is going to be sa, sa, sa. Try to put as much pressure as you can on the makhraj. Now remember, this is all practice. When we're reading the Quran, we won't, overemphasize the sound this much, but it's good to overemphasize it now in the practice, so that when we read the Quran, it's going to be much more easier to make the sound naturally, inshallah. So try your best to overemphasize the sound, put as much pressure as you can. So when it comes to reading words, when it comes to reading the Quran, you're really used to making that sound, and it's not going to be an issue at all. So again, sa, sa, sa. Okay. The letter Dad, we mentioned yesterday that the makhraj is the side of the tongue, touching the sides of the back teeth. And this is going to be ba, ba, ba. Okay, that sound is coming from the side of the tongue touching the side of the back teeth. Ba. The letter Ta, again, heavy letter. So put lots of pressure on the makhraj. Is going to be the tip of the tongue touching between the gums and the top two teeth. And this is going to be Ta, Ta, Ta. Same makhraj as the letter Ta. Only difference is you're going to put more pressure on it, and you're going to get that roundness, inshallah. So, Ta. The letter Dha, same makhraj as the letter Dhal. We mentioned that Dhal is a very, very light, a very light letter, it just rolls off the tongue. The Dha is going to be very, very heavy. You're going to put lots and lots of pressure on the tongue, okay? And make sure that, not on the tongue, on the teeth, sorry. And make sure that you don't have your tongue too high up, okay? So if you have your tongue too high up, then what's going to happen is it's going to sound incorrect. It won't sound like a va, it's going to sound like something else. So this is going to be va, va, va. And again, we're overemphasizing the sound. Va. The next letter, Ain, from the middle of the throat. Quite a tricky letter. So with the fatha, it's going to be ah, 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 ah. Okay. Ah. If you have difficulty pronouncing the letter Ain, then you have to practice the Ain just by itself. I know a few of the brothers who sent me the voice notes. I noticed that you did struggle with the letter Ain, which is completely fine. It is a difficult letter. I struggled a lot with it myself when I was learning. So what you have to do is spend time practicing the letter Ain, and the more you practice it, the easier it will become. Okay, so if you have difficulty pronouncing it, make sure you're spending time every single day practicing, inshallah. The more time you spend practicing, the easier it will become. The letter Ghain. Now, remember the Ghain is a heavy letter, so we have to have that heavy quality, and the sound comes from the top of the throat. It's going to be Gha, Gha, Gha. Okay? Make sure the sound is coming from the throat, very, very similar to the letter Kha, just slightly different. It's going to be Gha, Gha. Okay? The letter Fa is going to be nice and simple. It's going to be Fa, Fa, Fa. Moving on, the letter Qaf, the last of the heavy letters. This is going to be Qa, Qa, Qa. Make that sound really, really strong, okay? Really, really strong and really, really heavy. Qa. The next letter, Kaf. Again, this has to be very, very different from the letter Qaf. Make sure that these two sound different. This is going to be Ka, Ka, Ka. So Qaf is Qa and Kaf is Ka. The Lam is going to be La, La, La. The Mim will be Ma, Ma, Ma. The Noon is going to be Na, Na, Na. The Ha Now note that this ha is different from the ha. The ha, this ha, the strong one, this big ha is going to be from the middle of the throat, whereas this ha is from the bottom of the throat. You practically don't make a sound at all. It's just going to be like really, you know, right from the bottom of the throat. It's practically like you're just exhaling. It's going to be ha, ha, ha. The wow is going to be wa, wa, wa. And lastly, the ya is going to be ya, ya, ya. So those are all the letters. How is everyone feeling at the moment? A 1 if you feel okay, ready to practice. A 5 if you'd like me to repeat any particular letters. Okay, Brother Bilal, which letters would you like me to repeat?
It's sword board. Can you repeat?
Yeah, okay. So the sword is going to be sa, sa. So the way you're going to do it is put your tongue on the bottom teeth, put lots of pressure on those teeth. While you put pressure there, try to raise the back end of your tongue and slowly release the sound around your mouth. And it's going to be sa, sa, sa. Okay? And for the letter dad, you're going to do the same thing, but this time the makhraj is just different. You're going to put the side of the tongue on the side of the top back teeth, the molars at the back, and you're going to put your tongue, the side of your tongue there. You're going to put pressure on that place, and then you're going to slowly release the sound again, and it's going to be ba, ba, ba. Okay? So that's Sad and Dad. Brother asked to repeat Ain and Ghain. So the Ain, again, from the middle of the throat, you're going to say ah, ah, ah. Okay? You have to get the Ain sound first. So if you're unable to get the Ain sound, spend time practicing the Ain sound. Once you're able to get the Ain, you know, just as a letter by itself, that's when you're going to practice it with the fatha, inshallah. Ah. And the letter Ghain is going to be again from the top of the throat. So very similar to the kha. So if you can say kha, then inshallah you should be able to say Ghain, and it's because it's very similar. So just transition from saying kha to gha, gha, gha. Okay, and make sure you keep that heavy quality. Now, the reason I'm mentioning the heavy letters and the reason I'm putting circles underneath, you might be wondering, why is he doing this? Isn't it a bit, a bit over the top? No, it's not. The reason why is multiple reasons actually. Number one is it's going to help you to remember which letters are heavy, which letters are not heavy. Okay. And number two is it's very common mistake to make heavy letters light and light letters heavy, and we're going to see that inshallah. So these are all the letters with the fatha. We've got about half an hour left. So what I'm going to do in the next half hour, inshallah, is we will be practicing words. And I'm going to explain the method that I want everyone to use while practicing, inshallah. So that's the plan for the rest of this lesson, is we're going to practice how to read words with the fatha, and inshallah, going through the particular method that we use. So inshallah, what we'll do now is we'll go through some words. The main thing I want to get through for today is not the words themselves, but the explanation of the method. Okay. Now this is going to be the most important thing that we learn in today's lesson, inshallah. So make sure that you are paying attention right now. If you want to take notes, make sure you take notes. So the method for practice that we do in this particular course. Now I'm saying this particular course because, other courses, they might have their own methods. Other teachers, they might have their own methods. But the method that this we've been using in this course has seen a lot of success, especially with newer students, or even students who they learned it before but they didn't learn it properly. You know, if a student follows this method, we've seen success with that student. So that's why we're mentioning this method. That's why I'm going to really drill home this point, that make sure that you learn the method and make sure that you follow it when you practice. And I'm saying it now, but I can probably guarantee that there might be at least one person who accidentally will not follow it due to habit. And the reason I say accidentally is because I know there are some brothers here who already know how to read a little bit, and you're used to reading a particular way, and that's just your habit of reading. So that's why I'm saying, you might accidentally not use the method, or you might go wrong somewhere. And the reason is because you have a habit of reading a particular way, and to change that habit is going to take a lot of conscious effort. So this is why I'm saying that even though I am drilling home the point, there will still be some brothers who will make mistakes with regards to the method. And if you make a mistake, don't worry about it. Just try to fix it, inshallah. Okay. Now, you're probably thinking, Ustad, you're going crazy. Why you keep talking about this method? What is this magic formula? Please tell me. Okay, inshallah, I will explain it. So the method that we use in this course is whenever we are practicing, okay? Whenever we are practicing or reading, there are certain steps we need to take before when we're doing it, okay? Now, the first step, okay, so right now, I'm going to be looking at this word over here. Okay, so I'm looking at this word over here. So let's say we want to practice this word. How are we going to go about it? Well, using the method, the first step is, before even attempting to read the letters, the first step is to identify any rules, okay? So step one, okay? Step one is identify, excuse my handwriting, it's not that bad in real life, it's just because I'm on a laptop. Identify rules, okay? And this is the most important thing, okay? This is the most important thing, that's why it's step one, okay? We're learning Tajweed, okay? We're learning how to read with Tajweed. So it's important that whatever rules we learn as we go along the course, that whenever we're practicing, before we even attempt to read, we identify everything that we know, okay? Because what that is going to do is it's going to train our brain to recognize the rules. And the more we do it, the more comfortable we will become with the rules. And the more comfortable we become with the rules, the more easier it becomes to apply in our recitation. So step one is to identify any rules that we already know, okay? Now, question. So far, do we know any rules? Yes or no? Just in the chat, yes or no. Do we know any rules? In the lessons that we've had so far, have we learned any rules? Yes or no? Yes. If yes, what rules have we learned? Okay, interesting. Okay, alhamdulillah. Good answers, alhamdulillah. Okay, so the answer is we've learned the rule of the heavy letters, okay? A few brothers have said, obviously, we have learned the makharij, and they are definitely rules, but in terms of specifics, the specific rule we've learned so far is the heavy letters. We've learned that there are 7 heavy letters, and if you count ra with the fatha, the ra is also a heavy letter. So that is the rule that we know so far. As we go along the course, as we go along and we learn more, we go through more lessons, one by one, I will be teaching new rules, inshallah. And as we learn them, you're going to have more things to remember. Now, so far, it's only one rule. You just have to identify the heavy letters. So it won't be too difficult, okay? But you're going to see that once we get to like week 3 and there are more things, then it's going to be a bit more challenging. And that's why it's important to get into the habit now of identifying all the rules, so that when we learn it one by one, it'll be you just, so once we learn the second rule, then you'll only be looking for 1 and 2, and you're going to be more comfortable with 1 once you learn the second rule. Then once we learn the third rule, then you're going to be more comfortable with the first 2 rules, and it won't be too difficult to just add on. But if you don't build a habit now of identifying the rules, then what's going to happen is, once we're about 3 weeks down the line, there's going to be so many things to remember, and inevitably you will probably just miss out a few rules because there's so many things to look out for. So the reason why I'm really mentioning this very seriously is because it's important. Okay, make sure you get the habit now of using this method, and step 1 is to identify the rules. So make sure you get the habit of identifying all the rules before even attempting. Okay, so step 1 is identify the rules. Now, if you have a keen eye, you'll notice that I've been putting circles under the heavy letters. Every time I come across a heavy letter, I've just put a little circle underneath it. And the reason is, we mentioned that the heavy letter has that round sound. So that's why there's a circle underneath. So that's how we are going to identify them. So on the page that we practice on, we are going to put a circle underneath any heavy letters. Okay. So in this word, we have the letter Hamza, we have the letter Kha, and we have the letter Dal. Now, which of these letters are heavy and which of these letters are light? In the chat, which letter is heavy, which letter is light? Second letter, mashallah. Yep, the Kha. So the Kha is the heavy letter. So what we're going to do is we're going to just put a circle underneath the Kha. Okay, and this is going to indicate to us that the Kha is heavy, but it's also going to indicate to us that the Hamza and the Dal are light. Okay, so it does 2 things. We know now when we look at this word that there are 2 light letters and there is 1 heavy letter. Now, why is this important? We'll get to it later, inshallah. Now, that's step 1 of the method, is to identify the rules. We've done that, alhamdulillah. We've identified that the Kha is heavy. Okay, now step 2, step 3, I'm not going to write them down, I'm just going to say them, inshallah. So step 2 is to start reading. Now, we're not just going to read the entire word, and we're not going to read them all at once. What we're going to do is we're just going to read the first letter. Okay, so I'm going to do this in red pen just for this one. So we're going to read this letter first. So we're going to say a. Okay, that's step 2, is read the first letter with the vowel a. Then you're going to read the next letter. So you're going to read kha, kha, kha. So quickly, so step 1, identify the rules. We've identified that kha is the heavy letter. Step 2 is read the first letter a. Then you're going to read the next letter kha. Then before you go on to the third letter, you're going to read 1 and 2 together. So I'll do this in yellow pen. You're going to read these 2 together. That's step 3. So you're going to say akha, akha, akha. Okay, so again, you're going to read the first letter first, a, by itself. Then you're going to read the second letter by itself, kha. Then you're going to read the first 2 together, akha. Then you're going to read the third letter, the. And then lastly, you're going to try and read all 3 together. You're going to read akhadha, akhadha, akhadha. Okay, and that is the method that we're going to use to practice. Okay, so I'm going to quickly just go over it one more time. So step 1 is identify all the rules. So far, the rule we know is the rule of the heavy letters. So you have to identify any heavy letters in the word. Okay, there are 7 heavy letters, and also the ra with the fatha. Ra with the fatha is heavy. So that's step 1. Step 2 is to read the first letter, then read the second letter. Then step 3 is read the first 2 letters together. Before you move on to the third, you have to read the first 2 together. Then you're going to read the third letter. And once you've done that, then you can read 1, 2, and 3 all together. And that's how we are going to complete this word, okay? Now, this method might be time consuming, but it's very, very important. And the reason why is there are so many mistakes that can happen if you just read the word by itself, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a few more examples, and then after I've gone through a few more examples, I'm going to highlight common mistakes that people can make, okay? So I'll do this next word here. So here we have this word over here. So step 1, identify rules, identify any heavy letters. So here we have the letters Sin, Hamza, and Lam. Now, none of these are heavy letters, okay? So we don't need to mark anything. These are all light letters. We don't need to do anything. Now we're going to read the first letter, then the second, then the first and the second. Sa, a, sa, a. Now we're going to read the third letter, la. Now all 3, sa, a, la, sa, a, la. Okay, so again, we're going to read the first, the second, then the first 2 together, then the third, then all 3 together. So sa, a, sa, a, la, sa, a, la. Okay, that's how we're going to read the word. Now, does anyone have any questions at the moment regarding the method? A 1 if you understand how to do it, a 5 if you have any questions regarding the method of practice. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go through this third word, inshallah, and then after that, I'm going to highlight very common mistakes to try and avoid, inshallah, and what this method will do to help you avoid these mistakes. So here, now, step 1, identify any rules. So identify the heavy letters. We have the letter Dhal, we have the letter Ra, and we have the Hamza. So Dhal is not heavy, Dhal is light. Ra, we mentioned that Ra with the Fatha is heavy. So we're going to put a circle underneath it. And the Hamza is light. So we've identified that the Ra is a heavy letter. Now we're going to read the first letter, then the second, then the first and the second, then the third, and then all 3. So make sure that you take care with, reading these letters with the makhraj that we've learned, okay? But don't just read on autopilot. Make sure that you're taking care to, pronounce the letter as best as you can. Remember where the makharij are for each letter, okay? And make sure that you're reading it as best as you can. Don't just read the word on autopilot. That's not going to get you anywhere. You have to make sure you're thinking about where the makhraj is and are you pronouncing it correctly or not. So let's do this word. The, ra, the, ra, a, the, ra, a, the, ra, a, the, ra, the, ra, a, the, ra, a. Okay. We've gone through 3 examples of the method. Hopefully, inshallah, everyone understands the method to use. Now, why is it important? I've already mentioned why identifying the rules are important. As we go along through the course, we're going to learn so many rules. It's going to become too difficult to keep track of all of them if you aren't identifying them. Okay. And you're going to see once we get to like week 3 and week 4, when we get to actually reading the Quran as well, just in one ayah, even if it's a few words long, there are so many rules that are there that if you're a beginner and if you don't mark the rules on the page, you are going to forget and you are going to make mistakes. Okay, this is how you have to learn. This is how I learned when I was learning, is that as I learned a new rule, I didn't learn exactly this way, but the way I practiced, the way my teachers taught me is, as I learned a new rule, as they taught me a new rule, whenever I used to read, I used to get a little pencil and I used to mark wherever I could find that rule in whatever I read, and that helped me to, ingrain it into my brain, that, to recognize the rule and to apply it as well. So it's very, very, very important to make sure that you are marking the rules. Okay, so far the only rule we have is the heavy letter, yes. So make sure you are marking circles wherever you see heavy letters now. Going forward, inshallah, you have to do this. Why is it important to take it one letter at a time and start from the beginning each time? Well, there are common mistakes people make when reading the Quran. Okay, so we're going to go back to this first word here. Yeah, this one. So kha, kha, the, kha, the. Okay, now common mistakes people will make is, number one, they might not make the kha heavy. Okay, they might read this letter as a light letter, so they might say akhadha, akhadha. So if they read akhadha, then it's incorrect because the kha was not heavy. Okay, now on the flip side, you might have a person, they'll read this word and they will accidentally make the dal and the hamza heavy because of the kha. They know that the kha is heavy, so their mind is focused on the kha. They forget about the hamza and the dal, and they end up reading akhadha, akhadha. Or they might make one of them heavy. They might say akhadha, akhadha. If you read akhadha, then that's incorrect because you made the dal heavy. Or if you read akhadha, then that's incorrect because you made the hamza heavy. You have to keep the hamza and the dal light and the kha heavy. So that's going to be a, kha, the, kha, the. Okay, and that's why we have to take our time with each letter and start from the beginning each time, because what that is going to do is, if you do by any chance go wrong somewhere, if you do make a mistake, for example, if you read like this, if you say a, kha, the, the, then you yourself will know that you went wrong because you just read the, but then when you read the whole thing, you read the. So you will automatically recognize your own mistakes. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. When you take time, when you use this method of reading it by itself, then starting from the beginning each time, whenever you go wrong, whenever you make a mistake, it will be obvious to you that you made a mistake and you're going to try it again. Okay, and I know I've seen this with all of my students that I've taught, is whenever they use the method, every single time whenever they make a mistake, I don't even need to tell them. They will say, oh, I went wrong, I need to try it again. I don't even need to say a thing to them. As long as they understand the rules properly and as long as they understand how a letter should sound, then they themselves will be able to recognize their own mistakes and then correct their own mistakes. And that's the beauty of following this method, is if you apply it, you're going to recognize your own mistakes and then you're going to learn to fix them. And in doing so, you're going to speed up your learning. You're going to make much, much quicker progress, inshallah. So it might feel tedious at the start. It might feel very, very, quite slow. Like, you might think, oh, I know how to read this word. It's only 3 letters. You might think like that. You might feel like that. But please make sure that you do follow it. You do take your time, because it's going to help you in the long run. I always say to my students and, people I know, work smarter, not harder. It's important to make sure that you're working in the right direction. It's also important with the Quran to work hard, but work smart and work hard. Okay, don't just work hard but you're doing the wrong things. Work hard but do the right things and work hard. Okay, so make sure you're following the method and you're working hard in doing so, inshallah. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So what we can do is, inshallah, maybe if anyone would like to read a few words, maybe I'll, and then I will listen, and then I'll be able to correct you, inshallah, if you make mistakes. So if anyone would like to read a word, just maybe raise your hand in the Zoom call, and I will call upon your name, inshallah. So, Brother Kashif, you immediately unmuted. Would you like to read a word?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So read this word for me, and make sure that you're following the method. So I want you to read this word here.
So there is no heavy word. So all is light.
So which letters are there?
No one heavy. So it's all is light.
How
Oh,
about
it's
this
wrong.
one
Yeah, it's wrong. Sorry.
here? Ra is heavy, yeah?
Yeah.
So that's a tricky one, yeah? Whenever we come across a ra, we have to just slow down, because ra, though it's not part of those 7, it is sometimes heavy. And with the fatha, the ra is heavy, yeah?
Yeah.
So carry on, follow the method.
That raw, ra, ka, ka.
Now, you made a mistake there. Try it again.
Ka.
Fantastic. What did you do wrong there?
I did heavy ta.
Fantastic, yeah? So you just notice now that you yourself recognize your own mistake, yeah? So, and I mentioned it, whenever there's a heavy letter, it's very, very common, and it's very easy to make this mistake, is to make the letters before or after it heavy if they are light. So, Jazakallah khair, brother, fantastic. Brother Hamid, would you like to read a word?
No, I would like to.
So try this word over here.
All right. First, identifying the saw. The saw is heavy. So the and the raw will also be a little heavy because it has a fatha on it.
Yep.
So it'll be saw, ba, saw, ba, raw, saw, ba, raw.
Fantastic. Very, very good. Jazakallah khair, brother. That was really nicely read. You read all the letters clearly, and you read the heavy letters heavy and the light letters light. MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. Let's see. My brother, would you like to unmute yourself?
I'll do one.
Okay, brother Muhammad.
Yes.
Do this one for me. Let me just scroll down. I'm going to pick a difficult one, inshallah.
Great.
Try this one, inshallah.
Okay. So in that, the ra is heavy.
Yep.
On the other two, the lightish. Yeah, they are light. So
Yep.
I'll read it. Let me just get my. It's sha, ra, ha. Sorry, I did it wrong. Sha, ra, sha, ra, ha, sha, ra, ha.
MashaAllah, fantastic. Try to make the ha a bit more clear. So,
Ah.
sharaha.
Okay. Sharaha.
Yeah. So, inshallah, try to work on the pronunciation of the ha, inshallah. Yeah. Jazakallah khair, brother. Nicely read. Brother Nagi.
Oh, yes.
Would you like to read a word?
Yeah.
Do this one, inshallah.
Okay. Saw.
So
Saw.
identify the rules.
So the rule. Then what's the rule?
So which letters are heavy in this word?
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So the sod and the qaf are heavy.
Yep.
And the da is light. The dal is light.
Yep.
So it will be sa, da, qa. صدق.
So what you did there was you read sa, then da, and then you read qa. So what you want to do is read sa, then da, and then read the first two letters together. Before you try the qaf, read the first two letters. So try again.
Okay. صدق. صدق. صدق.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair, brother. The reason why, again, it might feel tedious to do it, especially if you know how to read quite a bit already. But again, the reason why is right now it might feel easy, but you know, after a couple of lessons, there's going to be more to do. There's going to be more rules, and that's when it's going to be a bit more common to, you know, go wrong somewhere. So if you have build a habit now of just following the method now, then inshallah, when you know we get to future lessons, then it's already going to be a habit, inshallah, and it won't be any trouble. My brother, would you like to read one? Brother.
Yes, brother.
Brother Jeffrey.
Yes, yes.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, yes, of course. Yeah, Jeffrey. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so try to do. This one's going to be a bit more trickier. We have 4 letters, so try it.
Okay, okay. The heavy letter is ha.
Yep.
Yeah, and other letters are light letters.
Yep.
Yeah. Wana.
So 1 letter at a time, and then so
yeah,
brother, take it 1 letter at a time, and then each time you do a new letter, start from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Wa. Na. Wana. Fa. Wana fa. Wa na fa kha. Wana fa kha.
MashaAllah, fantastic. Jazakallah khair, brother. Really nicely read. Jazakallah khair. Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to explain the homework. Alhamdulillah, we had a good lesson today. I won't be able to listen to any more, unfortunately. But hopefully with the homework, I'll be able to listen to everyone, inshallah. So this lesson, we covered quite a lot today. We went through the fatha, and we went through how to read each letter with the fatha. And then I explained the method to use when practicing, okay? And it's very, very important. This is the most important thing, is to follow the method. Now, it might, at the moment, it might feel really easy to read these words because, you know, they're only 3 letters or 4 letters, and you might be used to just reading entire ayahs without any trouble at all. But please make sure that even if it's easy, that you're following the method, because it's going to build a habit. And right now, the point is to build the habit, okay? When we get to, you know, later on, I'm just going to scroll down really quickly just to show you what we have later on. You know, there's going to be, sorry, not over here. We're going to have like entire lines, okay? So we have to, and in these lines, there's going to be so many rules, you know, going on that, you know, it's going to be impossible to keep track of all of them if you don't follow the method, and if you don't identify the rules, get comfortable with identifying them first. So before you practice any word, identify every single heavy letter, okay? And then once you've done that, when you're practicing, take it 1 letter at a time. Don't rush it. Take your time with it. Make sure you're pronouncing the letter as best as you can. Now, that's the method that we're going to be using throughout this entire course, inshallah. Now, the homework is going to be practice all of these words with the fatha, inshallah. So practice from page 11 on this booklet to page 11 to page 17, inshallah. Now, there are quite a lot of words there that you can practice. So what you can do is pick words that look difficult to you. Pick words with letters that you might find difficult, inshallah, if you can't go through all of them. Now, where is the so the booklet? What I'm going to do is, after this class, inshallah, I'm going to send this booklet to the group, inshallah, and you'll be able to use this booklet to practice. Okay, So I'll send the booklet as a PDF in the group chat, and everyone will have access to the booklet, inshallah. My advice is maybe print out the booklet, because if you do, then that way you'll have, you know, a physical copy, and you'll be able to like actually, you know, see the words in front of you, and you'll be able to just like write it down with a pencil, all the rules. If you're unable to print one out, then make sure you have a way of being able to mark on the book, okay? Because this is very, very important. Marking the rules is, you know, is the first step of this method. And, you know, we're learning Tajweed, we're learning the rules. So if you aren't marking the rules, you're only putting yourself at a disadvantage, okay? I'm not going to lose out. No one else is going to lose out. Only you will lose out if you aren't marking the rules. So make sure you have a way of marking the rules. Easiest way, I think, is just print off the booklet, or print off the practice pages, and then, you know, you'll be able to just mark it with a pencil. If you want to, I know from last month, one of the brothers, he used to write out the words that he wanted to practice. Like he'd pick maybe 10 words, he'd write them down on a piece of paper, then he'll just be able to practice it. Or if you want to just use an electronic copy, you can do what I do. Open the PDF with Microsoft Edge on your computer or laptop. And with Microsoft Edge, you have these draw tools that I have, as you can see in front of me. So if you open it with Microsoft Edge, if you use another browser like Chrome or Firefox, you might not be able, you won't have these tools in front of you. Microsoft Edge specifically, it does have these tools. That's why I'm mentioning specifically Microsoft Edge. I think you can also use Adobe Reader. If you have Adobe Reader, you can use Adobe Reader. That's also really, really good for PDFs. You'll be able to write on it, inshallah, as well. So main thing is practice these words from page 11 to page 19. And then once you've practiced, I want you to send me 7 voice notes, okay? Send me 7 voice notes. And in each voice note, I want you to read a word using the method. So for example, let's say one of the words that you're going to send me is this one. So let's say this is the first voice note. You're going to, what you're going to do is you're going to send me a picture of the word. So the picture should show your marking. It should show that which letters are heavy or light. So if right now there's no heavy letters, so you're just going to send me a picture of the word, and then you're going to send me a voice note, and you're going to read the word using the method. So you're going to say in the voice note, ba, a, ba'a, tha, ba'atha, and that's it. So that voice note will only take maybe 7-8 seconds. So if you're sending me 7 voice notes that are about that length, the entire thing shouldn't take me more than a minute to listen to. Okay. Send it with the picture. It makes my life easier to know what words you're reading. Obviously, if you're just practicing it, but if you send me a picture with it, it'll make it a lot more easier for me to, you know, listen to it and give you my feedback. So that's the homework. Go through these practice exercises, and then read to me 7 words. Try to pick words that look difficult. Try to pick words that have difficult letters, you know, heavy letters or letters that you have difficulty in pronouncing. That way, I will be able to give you proper feedback. I'll be able to tell you if you're improving in your letter pronunciation or if you still need to work on it, inshallah. So I hope that makes sense. If the homework makes sense, just a quick 1 in the chat. If you have any questions at the moment, a 5 in the chat. I will send the booklet after this class, straight after this class, inshallah. I will send the booklet. If you have a question, just ask. So Brother Saeed, you got a question? Okay, yeah. So there is homework every day, inshallah. So, you know, the course is intense, so make sure that you do your best to keep up. Obviously, some days you might miss, you know, life gets in the way, but try to, you know, as I mentioned, try to prioritize this thing. You know, it's only 1 month, but, you know, if you put the effort in, inshallah, you're going to see the fruits of your labor, inshallah. So that's this class, inshallah. I look forward to seeing everyone's homework tomorrow. And inshallah, tomorrow we'll have our last class of this week. And take care, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.